My name is Ginger Navikas. I am retired from the YWCA of Central Mass. I served as the Daybreak Director and ultimately the Director of Domestic Violence Services and Transitional Housing.
So my name is Emerali Gutierrez Oliver. I'm the Director of Domestic Violence Services, and I have been here about 6.5 years.
I would say that the evolution of services overall was the true success of Daybreak. As we learned more, moving along, responding to the needs of the people who sought our services, we started to develop more programs that would address their needs. And ultimately, the connection to community at large was probably the ultimate success, I would feel.
I'm very proud of the team that I work with. We have to cover about 44 cities and towns together, and it's very geographic, and that can sometimes be very difficult when you're talking about survivors who often have to relocate or go from one city to court. And this team has learned to communicate very well and effectively in order to provide better support to the survivors regardless of where they're coming from. So a really good example would be a survivor could identify themselves, let's say in our Leominster office, and really have an involved case that requires them to come to court, family and probate in Worcester, and they're often having to travel. So because we have court advocates here, the advocate in Leominster would be communicating with the advocates here to make sure that that survivor was met, that the survivor had a lot of support, and that they would see it through together.
There are many, many of them. I would speak to a person I was familiar with early on. This was a woman who had fled her abusive husband a couple of times with no place to go, only to return. And her third or fourth time that she left, we were able to assist her, and she was able to remain in the community with our counseling and our support group services that allowed her to be able to secure her future. She was able to find housing that was affordable with her son, and ultimately went to Quincy, got her associates, and then went on to, I think it was Worcester State. And we hired her years later as a court advocate for a short.
So what makes our team really unique and this program really unique is actually the diversity of it. Our team is very diverse, but we're also survivor-led. What that means is that we're always taking into consideration that a survivor and what they need comes first. If there's something that needs to be changed, we're very quick to try to figure out what better way can we do it if a survivor comes forward and says, you know what, I really don't like how you do your intake process. So we take that into consideration, and that means we're looking at the programming and we're modifying it to meet the needs of what a survivor requires. I often hear people say that, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you come from, we're here to help. I actually disagree with that. I think it matters who you are, it matters where you come from. We need to see you as an individual and not box you in. I think it matters quite a bit. And I like that this team understands that, and that we understand that everybody comes with a unique situation. So some of the challenges that I'm finding right now has to do with our prevention. I've noticed that there's not a lot of funding out there to help us get into the communities the way we should. We do great work when it's happening, but we want to break that cycle. We want to have impact in the community, and the way to have that impact is to be able to make the necessary changes through education and prevention. Currently, we only have about 1.5 full-time advocates. That's very little when you're talking about 44 cities and towns. So we want to be able to get in there and be able to address some of the needs that not just young people have, but also adults from organizations and centers and businesses, when they're asking for our help and saying, can you come and have a conversation with our staff meeting and tell them what this actually looks like? What can we do to support our employees? We run into those barriers when we only have about 1.5 advocates. That means that they're having to wait, and sometimes it might be too long. So that's our biggest barrier right now. So I don't think it's any secret that what we do actually saves lives. I think the statistics out there and the data proves that programs like this help lots of individuals. With funding that we get, we would be able to increase hopefully our capacity. We have right now anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 weeks sometimes that a survivor might have to wait to see an advocate, and that could be huge for them when they just want to be able to have a conversation. We do have our 24-hour helpline that assists, but it's not the same. It's not the same as being able to walk in and say, hi, can I see you this week? This is what's going on in my life. I think if we can increase that capacity, we might be able to help just a few more people a little bit faster.
I think funding has always been a struggle when it comes to prevention education. And that particular component of Daybreak and many other battered women's services or programs for domestic violence find that an essential part if we are to be successful in our work. We know that prevention education is key to change, and to be able to provide that to the public school system, beginning in grammar school, going through middle school and high school, really would be the ideal. And currently we are in need of funding for that so that we would be able to expand our ability.